The Indiana Pacers pulled off the improbable, and now we have the two best words in sports. Game 7. Let's start off with how dominant the Pacers were in this game. You got to give credit to their offense. They were able to establish a rhythm, and they played the pace that they wanted. The Indiana Pacers did a great job of not turning the ball over. And along with not turning the ball over, they did a great job of playing Indiana Pacers basketball. They moved the ball from side to side. They got paint touches. Those are key aspects that in Game 5, that Indiana Pacers offense struggled to do. And maybe that's because Tyrese Halliburton had that injury early on in that game. And defensively, that was really how the Indiana Pacers were able to take over this game. They forced turnovers on OKC. That Indiana Pacers defense, when they're locked in and they're paying attention to their details and assignments, this is a great defense. We'll get to the adjustments that they made in terms of guarding J-Dub going downhill. And then obviously I'll talk about SGA struggles in this game. But credit needs to go out to this Pacers defense because it set the tone for the whole entire night. Indiana, when they're able to force turnovers, that allows them to play their brand of basketball, getting out in transition and playing fast. And then lastly, can we give some credit to TJ McConnell? First off, he had a magnificent Game 5. And I'm not going to lie, maybe Rick Carlisle, even though he is a Hall of Fame coach, maybe he should have kept him in the game during that stretch, considering Halliburton was dealing with that calf strain. Nonetheless, TJ McConnell brought it again in Game 6. At one point while I was watching the game, I put in my notes that he was literally everywhere on both sides of the floor. You saw him diving for loose balls. You saw him getting after players defensively. And then offensively, you just saw more of a aggressive attack. Him trying to get to the paint, get those paint touches, find his spot in the mid-range. And I would just call it now. Regardless of whether or not the Pacers win or lose this series, TJ McConnell has had one of the all-time off the bench performances in the finals. And because the Pacers were able to dominate this game, that allowed them to rest Holly. He did not play a single minute in the fourth quarter, which should help, especially considering he's dealing with that calf strain. That's a scary injury considering what just happened to KD, 6 years ago? So I'm praying history doesn't repeat itself because Holly's a good dude. I want to see him continue to prove the doubters wrong. But for the Indiana Pacers to get this game and allow Halliburton to play less than half of the game, that bodes well for them in the Game 7, where you're going to need all hands on deck if you want to go out and win a world championship. Let's get to the OKC side of things. OKC had a horrific game. This was not his strongest. This might honestly be his worst postseason game of his young career at that. Yeah, 8 turnovers is not good. He got 21 points, but again, it was a struggle to get to those 21. Did he shoot efficiently? Yeah, for the most part. But you got to give credit to Nesmith, Nembhard, and just that Pacers defense because they worked together as a team to make it difficult for SGA. Again, I've alluded to this in a previous video where I thought maybe Dags would probably put SGA in a position to get off-ball touches and start his offense closer to the rim. That way you can maybe cut down on those turnovers and make it less difficult for him to find a groove and a rhythm. But again, I'm going to have to give credit to that Indy defense because they were able to get after him. They look like OKC's defense in a way, where if you turn your head, you see the next help defender come right over and they're there swarming you, making it difficult for you to make your next decision. SGA is obviously going to have to play much better in Game 7 if the Thunder want to win a championship. But I have a feeling that in order for SGA to be his MVP self, we're going to have to see a little bit more from the supporting cast. J-Dub coming off of a 40 ball was, although the plus minus was not in his favor at all, I thought he was solid enough on offense. Credit to Indy's defense because they paid more attention to detail off the back of a career game from J-Dub, so I believe they packed the paint pretty well, and they forced him to take more threes. J-Dub can knock down threes, but again, coming into the series, I thought the strength was going to lie with Indy in terms of three-point shooting. Chet, he only had 4 points. This was probably his worst game of the postseason as well. In its totality, offensively, the Oklahoma City Thunder team was just not on point. They didn't bring the level of focus and intensity needed in order to close out a game of this magnitude on the road. Going into a Game 7 is going to be very instrumental for not only the role players, but for Chet, J-Dub. Can they bring it offensively? Can they make an impact? SGA struggles are not only on himself, but it's a team problem because when the team doesn't do a good job of knocking down open shots, that makes it more difficult for SGA to get his offense going. OKC's defense in Game 6 wasn't ideal. I didn't think they played bad, but they didn't play as great as we're used to seeing them. We didn't see that tenacity where it just feels like they're everywhere. They got hands, creating deflections, getting steals, getting a fast break. I expect them to get back to doing what we've seen them do all season long and be a dominant force when it comes to Game 7. And before I get into my Game 7 prediction and thoughts, I do want to know some of the important things that I saw in this Game 6. For one, from the Indiana side of things, Mathurin did not really play much in this game. And I don't think that was Rick Carlisle trying to cut down the rotation. More so, he was just going with the hot hand. And when your back's against the wall, you kind of have to go with that. So it'll be interesting to see what Mathurin can do in Game 7. And then lastly, in that second half, we saw Caruso start instead of Hartenstein. I wonder if that's going to play into what OKC does in a Game 7. Everything's on the line. I'm so excited that we're getting a 7-game NBA Finals series. We haven't had one since 2016. In Game 7, I am expecting Caruso to get the start. He has not only the experience, but he has the championship pedigree. I believe OKC will value that and insert him into the starting lineup over Hartenstein. And also when you do that, that establishes how you're going to play them defensively. We know Caruso is able to get after players. And then keeping it on OKC side, I'm looking at the role players. How are they going to perform in this game? We know role players play better at home. They're going to have to step up. This is the biggest, brightest moment in this young team's career. Offensively, can they knock down open shots? Because if they don't, that's going to open up the door for Indiana. And we already know, based off of Game 6, Indiana is okay with giving up open looks from beyond the arc. For the Pacers, can Miles Turner finally have a game? We've seen throughout this series that he's had bright moments. Game 1, late down the stretch, he made some key shots. Game 3, down the stretch as well, he made some great defensive stops. Can Game 7 be the complete game where we not only see him impactful on the defensive side, but knocking down those shots that we've come to know from him? Also, Nembhard, TJ McConnell, those two have to continue to play aggressive. With Halliburton dealing with that calf strain, we're not sure what we're going to get from him. Halliburton hasn't played well on the road either in this series, so it's even more crucial for those two to have their games going. The turnover battle, that's been the indicator for whoever wins the game in this series. Both teams thrive when they're able to get into transition. More so for OKC, I would argue, because their half-court offense has struggled. And for Indy, when it comes to turnovers, they're not necessarily out of games, but Game 5 showed that if you turn over the ball just the right amount of times in their live ball turnovers, that digs your own grave. The biggest thing that I'm looking in this Game 7 is whether or not SGA answers the call, because in many ways, I believe this is a legacy game for him. He's taken this young Thunder team to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012, and they're one game away from making history, winning a championship in OKC, because that franchise has a title from the Supersonic days. But as Oklahoma City, they don't have it yet. So from that standpoint, there's pressure on SGA. From an X's and O's standpoint, SGA has to be great. There's no ifs or buts about it. He's the MVP for a reason. This is his time to show why he should be considered one of the best players in the game right now. So SGA, you can't have 8 turnovers. You're going to have to probably score about 30 or 40. I'm not going to lie, because this Indiana Pacers team, offensively, we know what they're capable of. And from a team perspective, SGA is going to have to find a way to get his other teammates involved, because at the end of the day, he is a point guard. He has to find that right balance, much like what Halliburton did, in being a scorer and being a facilitator. And this is the beauty of Game 7s. They build legacies, and this is an opportunity for SGA to build his. For my prediction, I started off with saying OKC was going to win in 6. OKC just fell short of that. But they're coming back home. We've seen them all season long be dominant at home. And on top of that, they've rarely lost back-to-back games. I believe they've only done it twice. And they played over 100 games. My Dom pick for Game 7 of the NBA Finals is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe having home court advantage puts them over the top here. This is a team where their young role players will rise to the occasion, being surrounded by that home crowd. You go back to Game 2 and Game 5. Those were indicators showing you that the role players can be dialed in when it comes to being at home, knocking down open shots, making the 50-50 plays, getting the defensive stops. That will go a long way for the Thunder in winning this game. And then going to an X's and O's standpoint, this is a team that I mentioned does not lose back-to-back games So I believe they make those improvements defensively. They find a game plan to going back to forcing Indiana into more turnovers. And then offensively, they find a way to get SGA a way to get going offensively from the jump. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe. And most importantly, let's enjoy this last day of basketball.